In studio with the fellas to react as we see moments there at the end of the game with quarterbacks exchanging pleasantries. We will dive into it all, but we have to start with what's right in front of our faces, and that's Jordan Love's performance, his connection with his tight end. 29 of 37, 360, and 3 touchdowns, Mac. Looked quite easy for Jordan Love on Sunday night.
Talk about being easy. It was an easy night for Jordan Love. It was a lovely night. At one point in time, he had 20 straight completions. So the efficiency was there, the consistency. Arguably his best game so far this season in 2025 when you look at what we've seen so far from Jordan Love. And I think Jordan Love is starting to find that rhythm. Pat, you said something that was very, very critical during the pregame show. This is around the time where you usually see Jordan Love play his best football. Yeah. Usually gets off to a little slower start, but around the mid to late month of October is where he starts to really kick in and really make big-time plays. And that's what we saw tonight on the big-time stage.
JJ, when we look at this performance, we sort of laid it out in front of the younger of the two quarterbacks in this matchup that it's a big moment for his football team in the grand scheme of this season, but also in the grand scheme of these two careers. What does this performance in this spot specifically mean for Jordan Love?
Well, I think the second half comeback that he was able to engineer says a lot about him, a lot about this team. Of course, the Green Bay Packers were trailing 19-14, and then that they were able to go on the stretch that they did. Obviously, a garbage time touchdown, more or less, there for the Steelers. Yeah, that speaks well of the Green Bay Packers defense, sure. But that Jordan Love, and he got a little fortunate, that pass to Tucker Kraft that really got them rolling, right? That maybe should have been OPI, but again, that's another conversation, right, B-Mac? The fact is, he was able to constantly keep his team ahead of the sticks. He did not make any sort of key error or mistake, and then he made the plays when he needed them to. He had Tucker Kraft. He found Tucker Kraft. When the Steelers were in defenses that were disadvantageous to the Pittsburgh Steelers and advantageous to the opponent, he found where he needed to go with the football, so credit to him.
You take your breaks or you make your breaks. Either way, Jordan Love, 360 and 3 touchdowns is something you will always take. More on what Max said about your point prior to this game, a player sort of working into their rhythm at this point of the year. Does that tell you anything about Jordan Love specific?
He's a competer. He's a fighter. He's a guy that understands that he needs to be at his best in order for this team to go where they want to go. And the season typically starts in late October, November, December. That's when real football is being played. And right now, Jordan Love was basically flawless. This game had, 27 of 36, 360 yards. I mean, he had a game today, and that's what they're going to need from Jordan Love moving forward. And also the defense. The defense played lights out. Although they gave up some points early on in the game, but the second half they made those adjustments, continued to harass Aaron Rodgers, and that's what made this game end up turning out the way it did.
Anytime you're getting those sort of numbers that we saw from Jordan Love, you sort of have to look to the other side and ask why or how. And watching defense with you two gentlemen is like a master class each and every Sunday. So tell me what we're seeing on the back end right now for these Pittsburgh Steelers, Max, specific to the scheme they're rolling out there. Felt very vanilla on Sunday night.
Two issues that I have. I would love to hear Pat P's mindset as well because he once was a part of this Steeler defense a few years ago. But two issues that I have with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number one, communication, the lack thereof. The guys are not on the same level. The second-level guys and the third-level guys, which is the linebackers and the defensive backs, they're never on the same level in terms of zone drop-its or passing off coverage in man concepts. Anytime you see guys communicating their hands up, trying to echo and get things going on, clearly someone does not know exactly what they're supposed to do, or they're not aware of who is helping them potentially in a combo coverage-like situation. And then outside of that, it's all about knowing the hot man. What we saw tonight, they played the same defense they played against Jamar Chase on Tucker Kraft. The Jamar Chase defense just let you just wide open. Tucker Kraft was the hot man. That was the guy that Jordan Love was really making a creative relationship flourish before our eyes in the passing game. And you cannot allow the hot man to just be open. And the last thing, too many man-to-man concepts. When you play against the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially in third down, you line up in single high. You're basically showing your hands to the opposing quarterback into what you're doing, and that's why we see man beaters. Think about this. When you watch Pittsburgh, offenses play against Pittsburgh, you see a lot of rub routes. You see a lot of pick routes because they know you're going to be in a man concepts in third downs, so they run man beaters. And that's what we saw last week with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw tonight. So until you correct your wrongs, you will get the same game plan week after week until you become better at it.
And Pat, is that a multi-year philosophy we're seeing here? Is that something you experienced just some years ago?
Yeah, when I was there, my whole thing is we may bend, but let's not break or allow them to get in the end zone. To Mac's point, in the red zone is way too much man-to-man. We got to take our lumps and understand that they already are in field goal range, so now we can't allow teams to score. And what's the easiest defense for a team to score in?
Man.
Man-to-man.
Man-to-man.
And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers was living and dying in that red zone. That's why they end up giving up so many points.
All right, Joe Flacco, real quick, JJ. 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tonight, Jordan Love, 360 and 3 touchdowns.
Sort of price
in a
of
matter of
admission
2
right
ball
now.
games, over 700 yards from
In the
2
air.
different quarterbacks in the air.
Yeah.
6 total touchdowns in the air.
Following up on what you all said, does it have anything at all to do with there being some newer pieces in the back end, don't have that time to gel? We had an injury tonight with Deshaun Elliott. The age that's back there, right? Jalen Ramsey isn't a spring chicken anymore. Like, does it have anything to do with the lack of gelling as well as the age as well as the injuries that are going on?
For me, watching that game, I think, honestly, the Green Bay Packers did a good job of exploring matchups. They went after Queen. They went after all the linebackers. So in that case, I'm going into halftime like, let's get into our penny set to where we're going to put a cover safety, and that's where Jalen Ramsey, in my opinion, would have an opportunity to flourish or at least take Tucker Kraft out of the game to where now Jordan Love has to find someone else to beat him.
And if there's an issue with the gelling, with new faces and new places, simplify it. Let's go generic zones. Right? Let's show something in the back end. Let's roll into something differently.
else.
But let's go generic zones, because when you're in these man-to-man concepts, working with new guys, I haven't worked with Pat a lot in practice, so I don't know exactly how he's going to feel. I don't know exactly if he knows what I'm going to do. We're going to get picked. If something's going to happen when we're playing against an offense that's in tune, they're going to run something that's going to confuse us even more. So let's simplify it. But lastly, how many times did Jordan Love get sacked tonight?
0.
0.
They heated him up. They didn't get home. 90, again, in this sort of vanilla idea, does what he does at an extremely high level, but what he does is limited to a certain number of things.
It's the same thing. Remember, we talked about Joe Flacco and why he was so successful. They didn't touch him. They sacked him, I think, twice. But outside of that, Joe Flacco was extremely comfortable. Remember what I said during the pregame show. If you're not watching, you're missing a treat. We give quality nuggets week in and week out, so make sure you tune in. But I said you cannot allow Jordan Love to be what? As comfortable as a baby in a bassinet. Well, he was in a bassinet, he went to sleep. He was in a swaddle, to JJ's point, he went to sleep. He never felt uncomfortable. That's why he put forth these video game-like numbers. Someone has to get home.
Yeah.
Like, someone has to get home. Another thing you don't see with defense on the front, any stunts.
Yeah.
No kind of stunts. It's generic, straight pass rush. You have to out-scheme these outstanding, prolific coordinators that you're facing against, because when you show your hand, they know exactly where to exploit the matchup in their favor.
Let's continue with this idea of father and son, because it was protege outperforming the one that he came up under. Drafted to take the job of Aaron Rodgers, JJ, and in this 60-minute sample size, showing you exactly why that was the thing to do. He is the quarterback of the future. He is the quarterback of the present, but this is such a specific moment for both Love and Rodgers to get this opportunity side by side.
And certainly Aaron Rodgers wanted this. Both of the guys wanted it. One is going to come out on top, and it was Jordan Love. What I saw from Aaron Rodgers and from the Pittsburgh Steelers, it had less to do with Aaron Rodgers and his age and his contract situation or anything. You talk about how they went, what was it, Pat? 1 of 10
1 of
on
10
on third down.
Yep.
When you look at it, not just 1 of 10 on third down, but 7 of those 10 were third and long situations. So they were behind the sticks most of the night. Third and long being 3rd and 7 plus. That was 7 of their 10 opportunities there to extend their drives. In the second half, they had 3 3-and-outs. And so, you know, Aaron Rodgers is he's going to get some incompletions here that should not have been incompletions. And, you know, to not have a leading receiver, you know, Roman Wilson had 71 yards. DK Metcalf was number 2 with 55 yards. You're not paying $30 million a year for 55 yards in primetime against a Super Bowl contending team like the Green Bay Packers. That is why the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be in the market for wide receiver help ahead of the trade deadline. They have been. They frankly have been for years now, but they will continue to be in these next 8 days trying to find another wide receiver out there who can come in and help them because they clearly need it in this moment with Aaron
Any
Rodgers.
suitable names?
It's hard because you may want a top tier sort of guy, but teams aren't parting with those guys. Like you're going to hear a Jalen Waddle, for example. The Dolphins don't want to part with Jalen Waddle. But if you can find someone that you can send a third or a fourth round pick for, knowing that you're going to get that pick back in compensatory picks in the 2026 draft.
They got a bunch of third round picks.
They would love to do that. They could have a wide receiver like George Pickens, perhaps.
We're looking at this broadly right now in terms of team needs, but let's look at the division more broader speaking. The Ravens get their second win of the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers suffer a loss here. Obviously, a nice head start here, let's say, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but this isn't the type of performance that gives you the sort of belief that they have everything they need or can perform at the level they need to hold off a Lamar Jackson-led Ravens team. Mac, we look at the schedule ahead. What does this look like to you when you see back-to-back losses, a big one upcoming with the Colts, prime time with the Chargers before you can come up for some air, mate?
I'm a bit concerned. I am a bit concerned for two reasons. Number one, Baltimore, this was the most important game for the Ravens today
14 and 18.
against
14
Chicago.
and 18. You got Action Jackson on the home stretch.
This was the most important game for the Ravens because they could not afford to go 1-6 without Lamar Jackson. Now they're 2-5. And they get potentially Lamar Jackson might be back. If he's back on a short week against Miami, that's a winnable ball game, right? And if he finds his stride along with the defense doing what they did today, making timely stops, you have to keep your eye on your rearview mirror. And then for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're like a 4x1 team where the anchor leg is not really like that. And what I mean when I say that, if you know anything about track and 4x1s, when you get out of the blocks, your first leg and your second leg, they usually do a good job. But your third and your fourth leg got to be able to bring it home. What have we seen with the Pittsburgh Steelers in years past? The month of December has been horrible. The inability to finish well. The inability to go into January football thriving.
Both sides of the ball.
Both sides of football and not surviving. We've seen this storyline before. Now it's starting to surface a little earlier in the year from what we've seen the last 2 weeks. And you have the Colts coming to town. That schedule that you talked about, Joe, it won't get easier in the second half. So you need to be playing your best football, and you also need to know you need to create more separation from the next best team in your division, who is the Baltimore Ravens, who's shown the ability to hit that stride when you have a superstar player like Lamar Jackson. So I'm a bit concerned because you cannot afford to be in the midst of a 3-game losing streak, and your other next best opponent is starting to win.
You got to be able to do what they couldn't do tonight, and that is adjust on the fly. We'll see what sort of adjustments they make, but I will say this 4x1, I got us versus anybody.
Facts.
Let's do it.
Quarterbacks in their first game against a former team. Aaron Rodgers against the Packers comes up with a loss here.
And he didn't join history.
Nope.
Joining what?
He would have been the fifth.
He would have been the fifth.
Would have been the fifth to beat all 32, but as JJ said in pregame again, tasty nuggets. Maybe it's not his last year.
Who's the name?
Favre.
Favre.
Important.
Yeah.
Can't forget him.
A Packer.